Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and there's also a PayPal link in the info box below the video once it's rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we are joined by The Plain Truth, Sleeping Warrior, Chocolate Saiyan, and Arwin. Good to have you all.
Yo, yo.
Good morning.
I think Arwin is here, but I think he might be getting a brew.
No worries. Let's rattle through housekeeping. Any signs of curvature, gentlemen?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No.
Nope.
Nope.
Any evidence of a pressurized system? No. Any evidence of gas pressure without a container?
No.
Never.
Nope.
Any evidence of Bill Miller?
Who?
Bill Miller?
Who?
Nope.
No?
Nope.
No?
I don't think Bill Miller actually exists.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Nope.
No way.
Negatory.
What about the presupposition itself? Any evidence of Earth radius? Any evidence of R, gentlemen?
Nope.
Definitely not.
Negatory.
Negative.
About the distance to the Sun, otherwise known as a presupposition that Venus is the same size as Earth. Any evidence of the distance to the Sun, gentlemen?
Right.
Only the Venus calculation, the Venus radar measurement, which doesn't account for the fact that we're supposed to be orbiting the Sun and rotating at the same time. So to get a signal out to Venus and back again, it's something like 300. What is it now? Can't remember the figures now. So it's 93 to the Sun, so it's about 33 million miles to Venus and then back again. It takes about 7 minutes for a radar signal to get to Venus, bounce off it allegedly, and then get back to Earth. And in that 7 minutes of time, the receiver on Earth has moved. But they claim that this is how they get the distance to Venus, as far as I can tell. And I call bullshit, because the receiver would not be there to receive the signal because of the apparent rotation and the apparent orbit of the Sun. So unless they can account for why that's not the case, no, there is no evidence of the distance to the Sun.
It's universe locking.
It's still a lot of presuppositions even to get there.
Yep.
What about gravity? Any evidence of that?
Yeah.
Nathan, do you want to re-ask the question?
Any proof of gravity?
Nope.
Well done.
I
got another one.
I think that concludes our housekeeping, gentlemen. Well done for keeping it together.
I got one to add.
Oh, really? Well, there is actually, just before you do, Arwin, there's another one that I may potentially add. I'm going to do like a crib sheet that I'll put up potentially visually during housekeeping, so you can actually see each one listed, in writing rather than just me verbalising it. But
Make sure it's pretty.
I'll do my damnedest. I'll see what I can do. But Isa Mahalski has said, look, can you add an extra one to housekeeping about the 600 nautical miles when used in plain sailing being regarded as flat? Is there any evidence to counter that? So I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to phrase it. I gave him a suggestion and he gave me a suggestion, but I wanted to run it past you guys. What are your opinions and thoughts about that 600 nautical miles that's treated as flat?
We need to cite the original citation first.
You need to formulate it properly before.
Well, it's to do with whether you say miles squared or square miles. Now, depending on how you say it, governs the way that it's interpreted. and it matters. It's contentious, and I didn't know it was contentious. But we need to see the original document that cites that in nautical whatever the assertion is. We need to see that because I don't believe I've ever seen the original citation for where it says it.
I think Isa showed it.
I think he
He
did
might
too.
he may have done. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying I don't remember seeing it.
Well, we'll
No,
get our
this
hands
is
on it.
not-
I'll let Issa know that's the score. Just give us some decent, solid sound citations, and then we'll add it. And then should we ever be challenged on it, it's like, well, here's where we've got the citation from.
Yeah, that's it. Because I don't want to assert it if it's not something that I know where the citation is from. I wouldn't do what George does and self-profess that it's either my own citation or I'm quoting Isa Mahalski. We need to know where the original this assertion on.
I agree.
Right.
Fair
So,
I'll put that out to Issa then. So, Arwin, what was you said you wanted to potentially add something as well?
yeah, I was just thinking, do you guys have any scientific proof of density and buoyancy?
Scientific proof of what? I didn't hear it. Say it again, Arwin. Sorry.
Scientific proof of buoyancy. Let's just start with that.
Are you kidding me?
Are you joking?
Yeah. What is the? Please formulate the cause.
Do you not remember the egg in the water experiment?
Now, that is an example of an effect, but what is the causal relation?
Can't believe you're asking that question. I'm going to treat that with the scorn it deserves and refuse to answer.
Changes the density
really?
of the liquid, Arwin.
Hmm?
It changes the density of the liquid, and the egg moves.
Is that the cause of buoyancy?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
density. Yeah. The change in density
So
change
liquid buoyancy. Density
No.
causes buoyancy.
No. If density change, disequilibrium reset.
But what causes that effect?
Density. If you vary the density as your independent variable, you can create movement. You can make occur right before your eyes.
Right.
Not really a
Let me
point for
say-
housekeeping. Certainly a debating point, though.
I was just wondering. It's just a test.
I'm going to call out George Netanuk. This little lying weasel has claimed to me that John, Quantum Eraser, has fraudulently changed the words in his citation to cherry pick or to exaggerate or to make stronger the point that John seeks to rely upon in the context that he's using it in. I haven't got any examples of this said claim at the moment, but George Netanuk wants to present them. But he's asked me to present the evidence to George that he seeks to rely upon. And I'm like, absolutely, as you're asking for, you've formed the opinion that John has changed the words to suit. Now, even if I had said evidence that you're asking for, you must have formed the opinion already based on the evidence that you already have, that John has in any way dishonestly done a Jimmy. And I've gone to the show. Let's see your evidence that you've formed the opinion that John is in some way dishonest. And let's see it. Let's see the bit where he's changed it from one thing to another based on the evidence that you actually have. Because I want to see this. If John has done something wrong, it should be pointed out publicly that he's relying on information that's changed. So I'm calling George out. Present your evidence of dishonesty on behalf of John, and whatever citation you think that he's changed, show us where John's changed it, and then show us what it's supposed to be, and show us where he's cherry-picked it. If you don't do it, George, again, you'll be exposed as a lying charlatan. If you do, we'll make sure that everybody on the panel can all hear you, and you can present your case uninterrupted, specifically showing where he's changed it.
I'll add at this point that he has been given that opportunity already. So I think it was show 427. I'm not 100% sure, but at the right at the beginning of one of the last couple of shows, George basically laid that claim while John was on the panel. And when he got to the end of the claim, John said, "Right, I want you to back that up right now." And there was about
and I
5,
agree
if not 10 minutes of back and forth between the two of them, with him saying, well, if you're going to claim that I'm changing and altering citations and literally editing the words, doing what Jimmy did, basically, which we presented proof to him multiple times, played it back to him over and over again. Well, rather than doing the same thing we did with Jimmy, George has made that assertion on the show live in front of an audience, and we've asked him to back it up. He hasn't. He obfuscated. He said he would go away there and then. 2 hours later, end of the last show, he didn't back it up with anything.
Correct. Now, when John called him on that, I also called George at the same time as John, because I realised that the claim that somebody's changed meaning of words is important. So I called him at the same time John did. For whatever reason, like lots was happening at the time, it never got addressed when it got lost. But again, I'm going to reassert the position. John is supposed to have changed the words to make it sound more suitable, and that's George's claim. I want to see exactly what he means, and I want to see the bit where John's changed it, and I want to see the original citation for where it should be something else. And George obviously has this evidence to be able to make the assertion. So George, you are invited on. You will get uninterrupted. You must bring evidence. You can't just come on and assert it.
Yeah, absolutely. Furthermore, it shouldn't be too difficult, as whenever John puts up a citation, a link is with it. So even if you have to type it out letter by letter, it won't be very difficult to find where it came from originally and check if it matches or not.
Yeah, he's got that. All of his work that I've seen him refer to is all cited with evidence that goes with it. Now, sure, if you think that one of them's wrong somehow, present it. Let's see it. Otherwise, you're just a charlatan.
We know that anyway.
Yeah. It'd be good to see, though. It'd be good to test John in terms of how accurate and reliable John is, because this is the whole point of the debate show. And I'm pretty sure that John is pretty much spot on. Even if he's got something wrong, I'd like to see how wrong it is and see where the element of dishonesty is. If John's not dishonest. He might be wrong, but it doesn't make him dishonest. And it must be dishonest if it's lying or deceitful.
Right. Like claiming there's 3 reference planes when you've got a citation in front of you that clearly states there's only 2 and in no way states that the freely moving object, ball, aeroplane, bullet, are in any way attached to their own reference frame, which they develop immediately as soon as they come out of a bullet of a gun or get released from somebody's hand. You know, that's his claim. I mean, the reason is very simple. He needs the system to be a closed system because you cannot have gas pressure without a container. So in this instance, he needs it to be in lockstep. He needs the atmosphere to be attached to the Earth. And the reason he needs the atmosphere attached to the Earth is because the second he concedes that the Coriolis is as stated and as cited and as explained to him for 2, 3, 4 shows, the net effect of him conceding that the Earth turns underneath the atmosphere as asserted is that suddenly you can then go to, well, why aren't plane journeys different in each direction, east to west, west to east? Why don't they differ? If you go into the separate reference frame of the atmosphere, exactly as asserted in their religious belief of heliocentricity, then the plane journey would be different going each way because the Earth is turning underneath it. Simple. They can't have it that way because it absolutely obliterates the argument that we have a spinning ball Earth.
We have conspiracy cats saying that you can have gas pressure without a container. Conspiracy cats, why don't you join us and you show us an example where you can have a gas pressure without any container? Tell you what I'll do. I'll send him the link. See if we can get him in to have a conversation. Because if we've got this wrong, we need to know. So, conspiracy cats, check your Skype. You should see it in there. Let's see what you've got to say with evidence for a gas pressure without a container. By definition, that is the definition of gas pressure.
Well, hopefully we'll get Conspiracy Cats joining. Nice chap that he is. I expect this conversation to be extremely civil.
I would expect it to be as well.
Or
he was asking me. He was asking. I tell you what. While he's on, Nathan, just answer this question to him. He asked me why was it that George wanted it to be a closed system, and I said because of the Coriolis force effect, and he said I don't understand, and I wasn't really eloquent enough to put it into words. So just tell conspiracy cats why it was that George needed it to be a closed system again.
To get it to be lockstep with the Earth, it's got to be a closed system. That's how you'd have it. Obviously, if it's separate, then it's separate. If it's in a nice closed system, you can isolate it and have everything carried along with the Earth. But you'd obviously have to have it in a bubble, not open, closed. And the reason he wants it to be closed and wants to contradict all the citations for Coriolis is because the second you concede that the Earth is turning underneath the atmosphere in the heliocentric model, which it is in their fantasy religious world, you end up in a position where the plane journeys take different times. You could just lift up in a helicopter and let the Earth turn underneath you because you're in a completely separate reference frame. So it's contrary to what the standard explanation is. The standard explanation is we have Coriolis because 2 reference frames. But then you end up with a bit of a problem. East to west, west to east should be very radically different with the Earth turning underneath. You should be able to raise up in a helicopter and let the Earth turn underneath. So you need to close up that system and get it all in lockstep together, just like we experience, because of the contradiction that they have in the heliocentric model. It doesn't work. It needs to be simultaneously both open and closed. Open so they can go to the moon, closed so they can have the atmosphere travelling in lockstep with the world.
I've sent you the link now. I sent you the wrong link. Apologies.
Hey, sorry, Anthony. Hey, Pete.
Hi, how you doing, Nathan? Another suggestion for housekeeping, a very basic suggestion as well. Any scientific proof that the Earth beneath our feet moves 1 iota. Just on George, a liar, I mean, that's well known. He's been doing the same rounds like everyone else from the start, but I had an issue with him. I asked him for proof that the Earth moves, scientific proof the Earth moves beneath our feet, and he produced a MIT paper or something like that on Foucault's pendulum. Now, when I looked through it, I looked to the start of it, at the very outset, right, there was the assumption that the Earth was of given dimensions and it moved at given speeds. When I asked him to retract then that this was a proof, he wouldn't do it. So you're dealing with a coward, you're dealing with someone put in place. But I do think that's a fundamental part of our reckoning, because remember, this is one of the first questions we would ask ourselves in the natural world. Something is moving, right? It's either the heavens, the earth, or both, right? So if the Earth doesn't move, this is what my standing stone, my foundation, I guess, for my thinking. If the Earth can be shown not to move, then the ball doesn't enter the equation based on the universal behavior of water at similar degrees of temperature and pressure. And of course, the Earth has been shown not to move by many experiments throughout the years that we don't get to hear too much about. So yeah, that just proved to me that George was an utter coward and he wouldn't retract it. So this is what you're dealing with. You'll be spinning your wheels forever waiting for these people to alter their point of view 1 iota or 1 jot. So let me just say as well, in the reckonings of Newton or Einstein, have you heard any sort of correspondence talking about the possibility that the Earth didn't move? You know, something that we all intuitively know and don't feel, you know, or do feel the non-movement. No, you don't hear any of their reckonings. This is always a give me, that the Earth is moving, and Newton started off by saying that the Earth is moving and the heavens are, the Earth is moving, the heavens are still, and Einstein came in with his relativity that everything is moving in relation to everything else, but you never hear any of their reckonings on the Earth being still and what might be happening based on that solid foundation. So, yeah.
We do kind of ask. We ask for if any signs of axial rotation. I know what you're saying. Any signs of anything at all. Hey, SX.
Hey, good morning.
Any movement at all. Yeah, good to have you. Just had a minor disaster. My kid got hold of a big bottle of moisturiser and has just like squirted it all over herself and all over her room. Fun. Head to toe covered child in moisturiser. Wonderful. Reptilian Overlord says, give her a slap. That's very kind of you to say. I don't slap my child.
You have to resort to violence against your loved one. You left this in the comments. You've lost already, right? You can't defeat your child by, not defeat, you know, just convince them, I suppose, by your mental faculties. Well, then you've lost. I never put my hand once on my child, and I totally, absolutely disagree with any forms of violence against anyone, most especially against defenseless children, you know.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know if Anthony wants to talk about this particularly, but when Anthony first expressed his opinion on this, he said, "Well, I'm pro-smacking," and I was like, "Well, I'm not." So this, in a way, is an interesting topic with a disagreement between Anthony and myself on the panel. He's pro-smacking, I'm anti-smacking, as is my wife. So it's an interesting discussion. But then it leaves your blood boiling when somebody accuses you of smacking your kid. Now, fortunately, for the last couple of days, what I've done to attempt to resolve this is let all of my audio come through in context. So typically, I'll do it now just so you can hear. I'll mute, and then you don't get any of my background audio, so you don't get the clanging and banging of Eleanor in the background. Well, I think it was I can't remember exactly, I'll just check. The end of one of the shows, she basically did exactly the same thing again, clattered and banged just before the show. Hello, sausage. Ugh, you're covered in it.
Somebody did a video about this, Nathan.
Yeah, there's been about 20.
Really?
Yeah,
I've seen
yeah.
one.
I got sick of thanking them for the advert when they started just mirroring each other's videos about the same exact topic. But yeah, Pete's absolutely right.
Nathan,
Go on, sorry.
how many times? How many times do me and you like not agree on most things? It's like all the time. Well, yeah, I'm pro-smacking. I was smacked as a child. I was smacked quite a lot. Not because I was naughty, but because my parents were strict. And the level of disobedience that they would accept was minimal. And if you crossed the line, then you knew that you were going to get your ass smacked.
Hey,
and
Alistair.
I
Hold
got
on,
smacked
Anthony.
regularly.
Hold on. Hey, Alistair. How you doing?
Yeah, that's about how you.
Oh, it's Conspiracy Cats. Good to have you.
Yep.
Sorry, carry on, Anthony, and then we'll crack on with... what would you prefer we called you? Sorry, Anthony.
Just saying
just bear with me a second,
as
Anthony.
a child.
Anthony, just bear with me 1 sec. What would you prefer we called you? Conspiracy Cats, or... What would you prefer?
Or Al, whatever Nathan, man. Al will do.
Okay, Al. Sorry, Anthony, you crack on.
Just saying that I got smacked because my parents were strict when I was a kid, and I knew quickly where the boundaries were, and I knew what basically was right and wrong, and I knew when not to cross it. And there's always a grey area that you can cross the lines a little bit, but if I crossed it too much, I used to get something called a bum tingler, which on face value sounds sexual, but when you realise what it actually is, it goes way beyond what we heard on the microphone the other day. It's repeated, continuous smacking that reddens the bottom that bad that it tingles. And looking back on it, it probably was abuse, because it was sustained for about 6-7 slaps, because you needed to get the message that whatever you've just done was wrong.
That's called spanking, right?
Nah, bum tinglers weren't spanking. It went beyond that. But I learned quickly the difference between right and wrong. And I'm pro-smacking because it taught me. So just because other people don't necessarily agree in smacking, so what? At the end of the
What
day...
did it teach you? What did it teach you, Anthony?
Pardon?
What did it teach you?
The difference between right from wrong. It taught me to respect my parents as well. Even if it was through fear, it taught me to respect my parents. And I've never, ever... I mean, I only got it like once or twice. But it was enough for me to learn quickly that mum and dad were the boss. And it's the way it should be.
So does your wife agree to that as well?
Are you pro-smacking?
Me?
Yeah, she's pro-smacking as well.
All right.
It's hard to tell how you're going to be until you're a parent. You can't
Yeah, there's a
really
difference
say.
between smacking and abusing. There is a distinction, and it's blatantly obvious. Blood would be a good example of where it's abuse, right? I never bled.
No
But
matter how you discipline your child, you're going to get
much more
criticised.
than
So as an example, I'll have to say it, although she'll overhear it and she shouldn't. We've got something called the naughty chair. Now, I explained to a couple of other parents at playgroup and whatnot about the naughty chair, and they were like, "Oh no, don't call it the naughty chair, because then they'll associate being naughty with the naughty chair." And you're like, right, you've got to call it timeout. You're like, oh, okay, right. So naughty chair's not good either. In other words, it doesn't matter what you do, you're going to get criticised by somebody for something.
We have a chair too. We just call it the chair, and he knows what the chair means.
Anyway, this is turning into a woman's circle. So we've got Conspiracy Cats on the channel. So hello, welcome again.
Oh, cheers, Nathan. How are you doing? You all right?
Very well. The main question on the table is, how do you have gas pressure without a container?
Well, I think it comes down to sort of like how you're defining pressure. I've literally got about 10 minutes now. I'm a bit crap when it comes to computers. I can't share my screen, but can you like put me on screen so I can get my whiteboard out? It's a bit old-fashioned, but
No problem. You're on.
is that possible?
Yeah, you're up.
Oh, I can see it. Yeah. There we go. Right. So essentially, this would be my understanding or my explanation. Can you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, we're good.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I can't see myself too on the computer. Right. So pressure. If I draw just an object here, and we're talking about gas pressure. Gas pressure is caused when a gas particle collides on the outside of an object. Will we all agree that?
Yeah, let's not wait for the rhetorical answers. Let's just crack through.
Okay, yeah. Okay.
No, it happens. It doesn't happen when. It just happens.
Otherwise, you'll get that.
Sorry, Owen.
I was just going to say, if you pause
Air
for the
pressure is
rhetorical
not a
answers, you'll
result
get them.
of collision. It just happens. It pushes.
That's not true.
Well, okay. Well, my I'll give you my understanding because I have honestly only got 10 minutes, and then see what you think. But gas pressure. If we have our air particles here, when they collide with the surface of something, we get a change in momentum. Momentum is a vector, right? And you calculate momentum by mass times velocity. So if I just use some pretty simple numbers, if I have an object that's traveling at 5 meters per second and it's got a mass of 1 kilogram, then it's got a momentum in one direction of plus 5 kilogram meters per second. Now, when it collides with something and bounces off in the opposite direction, because it's a vector, we've then got a momentum of minus 5 kilogram meters per second. So we've had a change of momentum of about 10, right? So when you throw a ball at something, it bounces off, it changes its momentum, and that provides a force, right? Force is changing momentum over time. Now, you remember from school that pressure is force divided by area.
But that's not the same force.
Well, hang on. What I was just simply going to say was that if I've got a box here that's high up in the atmosphere, that's having gas particles strike the outside of the container, what does it matter if I put another container around that or not? The existence of an external container doesn't stop these particles striking, let's say, a balloon in the atmosphere or whatever, anything in the atmosphere. We don't need some kind of seal on the outside for that to happen.
Okay,
I don't understand.
You just described the container
Hold on. That's lovely on a whiteboard. Can you show me that, please? Can you show me gas pressure without the need for a container?
He just demonstrated the container.
No, he didn't. He showed a whiteboard and then said
No,
we
I
don't
agree
need a
with
container
Darwin.
around the
He
outside. Why do we need a
demonstrated that we're in a
box?
container.
I heard what was explained, Darwin. What I just heard was whiteboard, don't need a container. So show it me.
So why would there need to be a container on the outside?
Sorry, I don't want a question from you. Listen to what I say. You've only got a limited amount of time, so please repeat back to me what I say to you now. Show me gas pressure without a container. Show being the word I've used.
Well, I can't get my screen up. But what about we talked about the collapsing can demonstration before. I can get a can of Coke, I can heat it up, I can turn it upside down, the can crushes. And that's just out in the open, that's just out in a field.
Yeah,
sorry, that would be the gas pressure from the outside
surface
of the container, crushing a container from outside to in. I'm asking you to show me gas pressure without a container. Third time I've said it to you.
So right, well, that I think you've got an understanding or a misunderstanding then of what pressure is. Pressure is that collision on a
I'll say it a fourth time. You're just ignoring me. Stop talking and listen. Don't give me an explanation. Shut up. Show me gas pressure without a container. Show it me. Don't explain it to me. Show it to me.
All right, I'll tell you what, Nathan. We'll pick this up another time.
No,
I'm
why?
quite happy to chat with you, but I'm not one of your bum boys who's going to be shouted at. We'll pick this up another time, pal.
All right, but in the meantime, I have a... Okay.
So, the original
I just
question...
wanted to make the
hold on, Arwin,
distinguish-
hold on. The original
It's a
question
very
posed to him
relevant point.
was, can you show gas pressure without a container? He showed me a whiteboard and told me we don't need a container. Gave me an explanation about how particles bounce off each other. And then I repeated the question 4 times and he called me a bum boy.
Yeah. And 11.
Well, he said he didn't want to be your bum boy.
Well, yeah, that's what I make people like you conspiracy cats my bitch by asking you a very simple question which you don't answer, you obfuscate continually, and by the time I repeat it a 4th time, you insult me. Hello, Gomzeba.
You're a
whatever
bum boy.
You're a bum boy. Hey, you're a bum boy.
That's lovely. Goodbye. Nice to have you on the panel. Very productive.
All these
So, yeah.
spastic. They're
That
all
was this
spastic,
crony.
aren't they? All the people who come in defending the ball. This guy with his theoretical nonsense. And again, when it comes down to practicality, they can't present any exhibits. They're defeated, you know, and
Hi,
then he runs.
Peter, how you doing?
Nonsense.
But I have a very relevant statement, a distinguishment that addresses his misconstruency of forces, so-called, because he's misconstruing the force that causes entropy, that is instantaneous gas pressure displacement to find an equilibrium within the container, and the pressures caused by a force, a local force, or any physical force that applies to matter causing local displacement and local pressure.
Can someone get
And he was
Bilu out of the back chat?
misconstruing the two
Hold on,
because
Arwen.
they're
Sorry,
separate
Arwen.
effects.
Can someone get Bilu out of the back chat before we all get kicked out?
Yeah, I've done it. I'm paying attention.
It's stable.
Oh, thank you.
But do you understand? It's two different effects. The entropy, gas expansion until the equilibrium is found within the container, and the local pressures being caused by forces applied to matter, which is another type of pressure. It is directional pressure. Always. It's always directional. And yeah, the entropy effect does not have that. It just goes in all directions equally until the equilibrium is found within the container.
What's a force, Arwen?
Force is mass times acceleration.
So you don't
It is,
think
it is directly related to what happens when, for example, a object with mass is starting to become displaced by, for example, mechanical pressure.
So what's the difference between an accelerating mass and a force?
Well, they're on a different level. An accelerating mass is an object in motion. As mass, a force is simply an effect that occurs when that happens.
Force is a cause, not an effect.
No. It's an effect that happens.
Is force
Is
something
measured.
physical?
It causes weight.
Is a force something physical?
No, of course not.
Why would you say that?
Because a force is not physical.
You mute
Yo,
your
Big
watch
Barry
page.
Love.
Good to have you, Big. Just mute your watch page.
Just oh, you got a voice changer on.
Need to mute your watch page, Big.
He's got a voice changer.
I don't think so. I thought it was the hangout in the background.
No, I could hear myself, but I was talking very low. So let's get Big Barry to speak. Make sure he's not a troll.
I think he's a troll.
Well, give him a chance. You gonna say hello, Big Barry? You're on mute at the moment. If you're on a PC, move your mouse over the screen. There we go.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Please move your mouse to free. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, you've got your watch page running. Can you mute your watch page?
Yeah, and turn off your voice changer because I can hear myself coming back through your speakers as a voice changed person, and I don't like hearing that.
You've got your watch page running. Can you mute your watch page? Voice changer, because I can hear myself speak as a voice changed person, and I don't like it.
Bang. And he's not.
Yeah, what's with the voice changer?
That was the right call, Owen. I was literally half a second behind you. That guy was using a voice changer.
I mean, I don't mind him using a voice changer, but if at least he could actually talk to us and mute the watch page. Anyway.
It'll just have been like Chris or Brenda or something.
So I just want to, round out the bit with Conspiracy Cats. As it was your title, I'm going to call you my bum boy. You are my bum boy now, Conspiracy Cats, because you have failed miserably to provide any evidence whatsoever of gas pressure without a container, which is specifically what you were asked for. You showed us a whiteboard and a pen. That's not evidence of gas pressure without a container, bum boy.
Where was I? Definition of force. So you say that force is an effect rather than a cause, are we?
Oh, yeah, it's very complicated to describe such a thing.
It is. Force is incredibly complicated to define.
Indeed.
I think you have a distinction between Newtonian force and Einsteinian force.
No, it has nothing to do with that. No, those are only related to the stationary setting effects. This is just general motion forces. It's just been established. Yeah, it is pressure that is caused during accelerating motion, and that pressure is directly linked to the acceleration rate. So yeah, it is an effect, and yeah, you can also it does form causes to certain elements that occur once it becomes noticeable.
So
to be honest,
just like the Jedi Force from Star Wars, are we?
No, that's fictional.
Oh.
Okay, well, if you
What's going on? Sorry.
Yes. Nathan, you're on camera, but it's blurry.
Hey guys.
Hey Jose.
Morning. What is gravity? Is that what we're talking about?
No.
Let's continue.
Forces.
Force.
Oh, excellent.
Sorry about that. I dropped from the Hangout. My kid put something on my mouse and it just left the page. What did I miss?
Nothing.
Nothing at all. But yeah, the other reason is for the average Joe watching this, gas pressure without a container. So if we're going to have a space, a vacuum, a space, as they define it, then we need an explanation for how we can have the pressure, the gas pressure, what we're breathing right here and now, next to that vacuum, because that's precisely what they have. Now, this is the argument. The conclusion is space is a nonsense. It's been completely and totally misrepresented by people like NASA and backed up by people like Red's rhetoric with nothing but lies and assertions backed by presupposition only. And the biggest one of all is gas pressure without a container. You can't have gas pressure without a container, and Bumboy, that just came on, will never demonstrate it. He can theorise, he can do mathematics, he can show me on a whiteboard, he can tell me that you just don't need one, but you do. You cannot have a tyre without a tyre. You know, it needs the container. And that's essentially why George wanted to continually obfuscate back and forth, claiming that we've got an attached atmosphere. It's held to the Earth. Well, that's nonsense. It defies their religion. Their religion says it's not attached. It's two separate reference frames. So this is the problem. Without being able to show gas pressure without a container, you don't have space. It destroys the entire medium of space. So this is the biggest single problem for someone like Red's rhetoric. This is why he's peeing in his pants and doesn't want to come here and wants to make all the excuses about muting or child abuse or attack me in however and whichever way he can to try and get me away from a platform I've set up to do this, to not be obfuscated by them, to have the advantage, to have the home field advantage. That's what I've got. Now, if people don't want to come here and risk being demolished and say, well, I want fair playing fields, it's like, what do I owe Red's rhetoric? Nothing. But what I will do without him here or with him here is demolish the entire medium his argument is based on. Space. Space is nonsense. Every man, woman and child in the Western world has been deceived about what space is. Space is not a vacuum. No one's going to space. We don't leave low Earth orbit as it's defined by NASA. Hey P, how you doing?
Hey, good. I was on Reds yesterday. It's funny that he criticizes you for muting people and talking over them when that's exactly what happened to me when I went on his panel yesterday. So I guess he's a hypocrite. Also, I noticed that him and his panel mates had no problem just like saying a bunch of things about me that were not true and providing zero evidence for it. So, you know, if they're willing to say things about me that I know are not true, that are lies, like they are liars. And they seem to be really obsessed. They seem to be really big fans of you, Nathan, because you got mentioned a lot in the child abuse thing, and they don't really have very good evidence of that either. So I guess Red's rhetoric and his panel members, they just like to make assertions without evidence, and they don't have any issues lying. So
it's called being a slanderous troll.
Well, it's actually a repercussion. So I've contacted the police about the Children of the Flat Earth Children of the Flat Earth Discord server, which has subsequently gone. And after a day after I showed with my mic open, which I can stop doing now, I've got enough examples to be able to point someone to if they contact me personally. I can say, hey, I go to this timestamp and you can hear the same thing happening, but with me on camera. So that's the kind of example I've gathered over the last 2 days, annoying every panel member with constant clanging and banging and crying. But that's what you've got when you've got a toddler. So a day after it had occurred, and I'd done that, it all died down. No comments, no nothing, virtually none. And then the following day, it all kicked off again like nothing had changed. And I was like, what's going on? I've shown in context what happens in my home. I thought that was the end of it. And then I found out that Children of the Flat Earth Discord was shut down. You're like, all right, so this is just retaliation. Well, you know, and Anthony's attitude was like, well, that's to be expected. They would view it as an eye for an eye. I'm like, well, I don't view it that way. Obviously not. But there we go. That's that. If you can't win on the argument, attack the man. That's what they do. So they're attacking me because they cannot win the actual argument when it comes to presenting globe Earth evidence. Red will be screwed within 5 seconds of getting here. How'd you get gas pressure without a container, Red? And then maybe he'll bring out a whiteboard like a bum boy. I don't know what he'll do, but he won't have a demonstration of gas pressure next without a container. So that debunks the medium of space. Everything he talks about relies on that medium. And if you don't have the medium, you don't have rockets flying to Venus. You don't have satellites in space. Say again?
Video.
Say again?
He will show you a rocket video taken by himself.
Well,
that's what he has as the example of a container, of a vacuum next to the pressurized system. A video of a rocket.
I think you're right about what you're saying.
Sorry, P. I've really got to correct that. And credit will immediately go to Russian Vids. So Russian Vids went on the debate with, I don't know who. He came in off the back of someone else getting kicked. It might have even been Gav and Dell. But in any event, Reds was on, and so was Russian Vids. And what Russian Vids said was, you don't have video of them going to space or returning from space. You've got ground footage, and that's shown in the gas pressure that we all know and love. But you find me a single transition, one transition from the gas pressure, what I'm asking, and I know we've got gas, but I'm breathing it, so I know that bit's true, right? But you show me one where they go from that gas pressure through the barrierless barrier that contains all the pressure into what they call the medium of space, which we say doesn't exist. Space has been misrepresented. Lights in the sky are not billions of miles based on some guy pulling the size of Venus being the same as the presupposed spherical Earth radius size. That's all nonsense. We've shown it. So Reds is screwed. That's why he doesn't want to come here. But if he can say, I want a fair playing field, but be in a position where he can rumpus the hangout, bring in 5 guests so I don't get to the end of my point. And like yesterday with George, as soon as it got to the absolute coup de grace, the killer point, he starts literally going, rah, 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 you're all really fair, I let John speak, bah, 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 rumpusing the hangout. But I've got a mute button. Everyone knows it now. Yeah, it's no problem at all. I'm not in the slightest bit ashamed to stick George on mute and go, this is what Globers do when they lose. They rumpus the hangout. They talk over the main point, the killer argument, the part that they're destroyed on. With George, an hour of 3 reference frames. The ball is a reference frame. The bullet is a reference frame. The plane is actually powered flight and not free flight. Lies, every last one of them. And when he's got a citation on screen that says 2 reference planes with a ball travelling between them, analogous to the Earth and a bullet, He says, no, you don't understand that it hasn't explained about the Earth being part of it. Nothing on the citation to back what he said whatsoever. And when that's pointed out, you're a terrible host. The Hangout's terrible. You don't give me a chance to speak. So yeah, I'll shut that guy up and repeat the killer point over the top of him while, yeah, people on the Hangout can't hear me, but the public can, while I say we don't have 3 reference frames. If the Earth turns underneath, yeah, which is what is asserted by their religion, George doesn't assert it. He needs it to be attached because you need to quantify it as a closed system with the atmosphere being held to the Earth, contrary to what the Coriolis dictates you would have to have atmosphere and Earth separate. In which case, why don't the planes travel in different directions at different speeds? They don't, because the Earth doesn't rotate, it doesn't budge a smegging inch. And also, if you're going to claim that we can go to the moon, leaving this pressurised system, well, how do you have that gas pressure without a container? And then you get onto the footage. Well, show me where they go through from the pressurised system we know and love with your handy cam on the pad. Show it going into space. No problem. Oh, what? We haven't got any? Why not? Where are they? Where's all these transitional shots of the beginning of space? Oh, well, yeah, because that's a big problem. You need it to be obfuscated completely in the footage, edited out, turned into cartoons like they used to do in the 60s and 70s. They just cut to cartoons, literally cut to cartoons at that moment, and they still do it to this day. You get 40 seconds of footage, and then this is a graphic illustration of what will be going on right now. That's what you get. Pathetic. It's because space isn't real. It's a great big joke.
I want to make 2 points. One is in support of the rumpus, and the other one puts this Slapgate scandal into its pigeonhole where it belongs. Firstly, the rumpus was in the Hangout with me at the time, live, and heard the same thing that I heard. And his reaction was, oh my God, initially, and then carried on. And he's been criticised for it, for carrying on, rather than getting up and leaving under protest. With the idea that he should have done anything, because we both shared the same experience and we both interpreted it however we interpreted it at the time. And my interpretation was that there was once that noise, whatever that noise may have been, had happened, nothing else happened. So if that noise caused a cry and it was a said smack, then you would expect there to be continuous crying, and there wasn't. So the reason why Rumpus didn't leave is because it quickly settled back down, and it didn't support the idea that in some way there was any kind of whatever word you want to use it is.
I'm going to leave it. Oh, sorry. You're done.
But my second point is that what the evidence actually shows, if you actually listen to it, is 1, child cries first. 2, there is a noise. 3, the child doesn't respond to said noise. Therefore, you can only conclude one thing, and the conclusion is that said noise did not cause the child to do anything. So to then objectively do is back out of this and look at this from the objective position, and which is that based on circumstantial evidence, everybody's got to formulate their own interpretation, their own impression, their own opinion. But that in itself doesn't prove what actually happened. Now, I'll go on the record and I will say, initially, I thought that there was contact, there was a smack, there was some kind of corporal punishment. That's what I thought had happened initially. After the show, I spoke with Nathan and I said, what? Blah, blah. We had a conversation. And he laughed and he told me what had happened. And then said, right, well, it's up to you now what you do. But he laughed. And basically, Nathan put it back up and didn't edit it at all. Right? But the reason is because something else had happened. But the reality is, everybody formed an opinion. And based on what you cannot see, everybody formed the opinion that whatever had happened. But all the ballers instantly, including myself, assumed that there was some kind of contact. But when you really know the truth and you realize that whatever did happen can't be proven, even if it was the way that you all perceive, because it's based on a sound. Nobody saw what happened. It wasn't on the mic it wasn't on camera at the time. Everybody formed an opinion, but all the ballers became holier than thou overnight. Now that's the bit that cheeses me off, because none of them are holier than thou. They're all scum, all of them. So ultimately, Cool.
Well, I think it's like a retaliation for Nathan exposing Gem
course it is.
Panda as a creepy child predator, right? And like for one, I got smacked growing up too. So according to the Ball Earthers, I was a victim of child abuse, right? Which I don't feel like I was, but they're basically just crying child abuse because they don't like Nathan, not because
Correct.
they actually think he's
Correct.
a child abuser. And it's not it's just definitely over the Gem Panda thing. It's nothing. They don't care about Eleanor, you know.
Yeah, that was established pretty quickly with George. So George starts asking me when I stopped beating my child, that age-old question that tries to catch people out. When did you stop beating your wife? Anyway, he asks me the question. I immediately say, I haven't ever laid a finger on her, or words to that effect, and point out that he's obfuscating the point. But ultimately, I also ask him, have you reported it? And his answer, well, no, I haven't reported it. So let me get this straight. A guy makes a mistake online, in your opinion, Brian Mullin, and you do hours of research for this minor infraction and eventually get in touch with his license supplier, ask about his credibility, do tons of research. You also get caught red-handed with another guy, I think called Qantas, talking about how you managed to get him down and all this kind of nonsense. So that's what you did for Brian Mullin. For the serious nature of me smacking my kid, in your opinion, you did nothing except moan on my show. That's what George literally said, live. No disputing it. Have you reported it then? No. It's like, if you've got a genuine concern, go and report it. That's it. So that shows how George's double standards work. If you're wrong about Coriolis, he'll try and have your job. But if you smack your kid, oh well, then who cares? As long as I can smear the person with it, that's all good by me. That's what George did.
So true.
It seems a bit inconsistent. I've been looking up like 1984, The 2 Minutes of Hate, and apparently what's going, like according to Orwell, he says like people have this angst and anger over leading wretched, controlled existence because, you know, we're being lied to and enslaved and all that by these super rich people. So they take out their anger on stuff, other things. So that's what's going on. They're taking out their angst over like being slaves on flat earthers, and they should really direct their hate to more constructive things, like things in their life that actually affect them, and not like flat earthers do not do anything to these people. They have absolutely no reason to have all this hatred and animosity. But anyways, I'm gonna leave because I think it'd be better if there's a ball or two.
Before you go, P. Mars, before you go, did you enter the Hangout as a flat Earth antagonist opposed to the Ball Earth religion, or what was your position? I mean, generally we would accept that you're on the same side as these people, although it's sort of a bit of a confusing issue with you. So,
well, I mean, I wanted to talk about the scientific dictatorship on the panel. Like that's my thing is more like propaganda and indoctrination. That's what I'm into. I'm not so much into the science of the Earth shape.
yeah. After all this time, Pete, right? Or Patrick, after all this time, yeah. Okay.
So I mean, I like to stick to things I can prove, because when you go on a panel with people like Reds, they're gonna hold your toes to the fire like Nathan does here, and you demand evidence and all that stuff. And I can't prove the Earth is flat myself, right? So I stick to stuff I can prove, and like the elite write books where they openly talk about, oh yeah, we're gonna lie to people. Oh yeah, we're gonna use science to manipulate people. It's openly discussed in their books, and I can point to that. And I don't know how Reds and them would argue versus that, because it's comes from the horse's mouth, right? So I just like to stick to like hardcore facts that I myself, you know, have researched and can prove. So like I'm not an expert on this flat Earth stuff, so I stick to scientific dictatorship. So anyways, I want to open a spot for Baller.
I'm gonna plug your channel before you do. I know you've dropped already, but P. Mars has been doing some broadcasts on Alan Watts. They've been fascinating. I've been listening to them. You know, P. Mars is very much a Marmite YouTuber. You'll love him and hate him, and or love him and hate him at the same time. So he's, for me, that's great. That's like the best recipe for a good YouTuber. So yeah, check out P. Mars's channel. He does do good broadcasts. Doesn't get widely viewed, but ultimately speaking, that's how everyone begins. So yeah, check out P. Mars. I know that's going to get me stick from people going, how dare you promote that complete troll? Well, I don't care. I like P. Mars, and I don't care what anybody else says. I like him. Anyway. I'm going to round up for a quick
I'm gonna
break.
make
so,
I'm
anybody
sorry.
got anything to add?
I'll
Just
make
before
a
I
quick
round up?
question comment.
Go ahead.
Questioning. I mean, a question, and I'm going to answer myself. What is the difference between perspective lines drawn in a white paper with a pencil and shown on camera, very, very, very bad drawing, just in the fly like I do. I draw perspective lines and show it in a piece of paper. What's the difference between that and an equation drawn in a chalkboard, in a whiteboard with Sharpie written down? The difference is that you can see perspective on real life. You can look and you can see the convergence point. You can see the from bigger to smaller the same object. Now you cannot see numbers flowing around and equations. I think that's it. What's the difference between perspective and equations drawn in a piece of paper? That you can see perspective, but you cannot see equation numbers. Thank you.
Yeah, you can use equations to quantify how you can have gas pressure without a container, but that doesn't mean that you have gas pressure without a container. And we do definitely have perspective. Anybody just needs to open their eyes and have a little look at anything and then back away from it. And they'll see it get smaller, relatively speaking, from their position. So perspective is very easy to demonstrate. Gas pressure without a container, you only see it on a whiteboard. You only see it with mathematics. You only get described how it might be, theoretically speaking. But get someone to actually present it to you, i.e. a can of compressed gas without the can, then they're going to struggle. And with that, I'm going to say first and foremost a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the debating panel for making this debate possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you hated the show, then you know exactly what to do. But if you liked the show, maybe consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing if you've not done so already. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!